Hey team, welcome to this week's episode of the Madison and Mountain View. This week we have a very special guest, Adam Mahalski, founder of Dorm Chat, who's going to talk to us a little bit about millennials who have been taking my newsfeed recently by storm via an article that talked about how Generation Z is now the focus of brands. They're not going to care as much about college students. It's going to be more about under 18. And as somebody who founded a company focused on college students, I was hoping that Adam could give us a little bit of a POV on whether this is true, whether he thinks that the trends in the millennial market are going to continue focusing on them or are going to shift to a younger generation. So, Adam, if you can share some thoughts about that.
Thank you, Liz. Well, first off, I appreciate you having me on the show. Pleasure to be here. And I think what's interesting is, the millennial generation, and I know, well, a little bit of a background on kind of what we do. I mean, we're a geolocal application that's focused on the college market. We had our version 1 product go live just over 2 months ago and have expanded to over 44 different universities, all domestic. Just like you mentioned, that is our core demographic. That's exactly what we're focused on. And I think, for your question, one of the things that comes to mind is actually an article that was written that went fairly viral over the past 2 weeks by a 19-year-old who kind of delved into a little bit about the focus on each different social platforms, whether that be Instagram, Facebook, and really the take that he more or less has on each one of those platforms. And I mean, you could see by just how quickly that spread. I mean, really the desire to know, what these different age groups are really using. As far as going down, down in terms of age, I think it's going to be more and more of a focus now. As it's I guess my cousin, who I saw the other day, she just turned 13, and she just got her first iPhone, and they're developing trends within their own personal age demographic that I think are interesting along those lines as well. I know that for them, they're actually using AirDrop to share photos, just given that it's much quicker. And I think that there are a lot of things that we can learn from the way that these different age gaps are using technology. But yeah, I still do think millennials are going to hold their sway, and we'll see a little bit more about that going down in the future.
Can you tell us a little bit about Dorm Chat?
Yeah, of course. So basically, we are our current largest competitor right now. To put kind of what would you help put us in context, is a little bit more popular, I guess, than we are in the media, is Yik Yak. And we're both using this model where you can broadcast out information to people, just the people within your area. So just by nature of being in an area, you can connect and communicate with people around you. The key differentiator between us and Yik Yak is really identity is at its core. We allow the ability to toggle back and forth using a profile or an anonymous handle, while Yik Yak uses solely anonymous. But I think the root at what we do is just really connecting people on a local level. And for us, that's college campuses. And I think that it's something that's a lot of teams have tried solving in the past, but we're finally starting to see the demand for a variety of reasons to kind of be able to solve this problem.
And how important, it sounds like speed is something that's really important to the millennial target in terms of not just the pace at which the user interface moves, but what you mentioned about AirDrop, getting the pictures, and moving from chatting on things like Facebook, where you'd leave someone a message on their wall or send someone a message, whether or not they're online or offline, to these platforms where you kind of see who's around, you send a message, you send a piece of content, light content that can move faster. Have you seen that, in order to just get in the game, you've got to be kind of fast and light?
Yeah, I would 100% say so. I think that, at the root of all of these is just communication in general. And what you're seeing, whether that be a 13-year-old or a 19-year-old, is they want to be able to connect with, in our personal case, with people of their local community, But also, I mean, what you're seeing is, connecting with other individuals from, I mean, just your core friends, and being able to do that. I do think that the bar has really been raised in terms of, I mean, the speed to do so. I think that, I mean, it's part of, it's almost an expectation that I mean, the service has to be quick. And then on top of that, I mean, you want to try and innovate in terms of different ways that you can really connect and communicate. I think that's the layer that we're really playing on.
You see, I see something else which is interesting. I'm not even going down the anonymity path, but it's almost, a lot of critics, I suppose, look at social media, or at least in this digital environment, and they might call it anti-social media, but it's really not that. At least with millennials, it's the equivalent of walking into a room and just being friendly, or going into a bar and making conversation. And so there's something, I think, that's kind of really unique about this idea of localized chat, whether it's anonymous or not. Now, obviously, with you guys, you can choose. But I think there's a real interesting, behavioral change that's happening, where people are saying, like, you could be lying on your bed and a little bored, and you just want to talk to someone, or you just want to be able to share with someone. I think Twitter has lost it in terms of how it's so public, it's so noisy in a sense. Hashtags were created to try and distill that. But really, I mean, if you're watching, for example, kind of that great the Seahawks against the Packers game, and you just want to talk to people, this is what's happening now. And I find that to be incredibly social, and something that just wasn't possible before. So maybe, can you talk a little bit about how you see this trend or this behavior change kind of growing or mainstreaming?
Yeah, and that's really at the root of what we're doing. I mean, our mission is to create the easiest way to connect and communicate with your local community. And I mean, that really stems from the fact that it kind of blows my mind when I step back and think about it, that you can find out, in real time, anything happening anywhere in the world. And when it comes down to your local area, in your local community, there's no centralized way to really communicate. I mean, if something were to happen, it's largely communicated through word of mouth. So we are trying to really create the platform for that local communication, and to make that as easy as possible. In terms of noisiness, and I think that, I mean, the nature of Twitter's platform and their product design is great for, I mean, that particular model, the follower model. And the way that we try to combat that, and I think that we have a little bit more leverage in this space, is we really go down more of that chat room based approach, where we can kind of apply a layer of context to the conversation that leads to a bunch of different terms of relationships, or really, I mean, it keeps the discussion going. That, and also I think in this next update that we're pushing, we're adding ephemeral chats as well. So if nobody contributes to the chat within 24 hours, that chat will disappear, which has the benefit of keeping everything always relevant, always timely. And yeah, I think, I mean, ultimately what we're really shooting for is to really become, that local Twitter.
And aren't you scared making a product targeted towards millennials, just given how, at least from my view, how fickle and a little bit unloyal they seem to be, versus, histories of people kind of really having this brand loyalty? Does it scare you at all that there's so many new platforms that are targeting millennials, or just that millennials will really kind of always abreast of the next hottest thing, that you're developing a product to get for this target that, might be a little wishy-washy?
Well, I think on the opposite, it actually keeps you on your toes. It's something that, I mean, you're exactly as you mentioned. I mean, they're arguably the most fickle consumer base. So therefore, I mean, you really have to be on the cutting edge. Otherwise, I mean, they'll move on to the next product.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, that's kind of, I mean, what drives us is, I mean, the particular vertical that we're playing in is something that has never been solved before. So the combination of that, I mean, we want to be able to solve this with the consumer base. That's really going to push us. That's really going to drive us to kind of innovate within this space and really.
No, I was going to say that, I mean, it's so hard, and I have to check myself about 1,000 times, and I keep forgetting this, but I just recently, I was in a meeting and I saw a stat that blew my mind, which is by 2020, the average age of the millennial, I think, will be close to, I think it will be something like in the high 30s or even close to 40. I mean, in a sense that it's like millennials are not, what are you all smiling about?
We're just thinking about like how like that generation. Like I'm not part of the millennials. I'm not part of Gen X. Like I'm in a weird sort of undefined space.
Well, that's the thing. A millennial, I mean, I guess not the average age, but I think millennials were 1980, right? 1980 and kind of and earlier in a sense. And so, by 2020, those first millennials are 40 years old. They're, and and they're in the whole married plus 1.2 kids or 1.8 kids and zero point 0.7 dogs and I mean, in terms of purchasing power, they're off the charts. So it's like, I think we have to like reinvent the concept, or at least be able to dissect or segment or what comes after the millennial, because we keep on, I mean, even I do, the catch is that I keep thinking of millennials as, in dorms and in college, and they're not.
Yeah. Well, and I think that with every generation, right, we get fixated. Excuse me. We get fixated on how they were sort of as they became known to the world. Right, there was Gen X and the whole like slacker generation, and everybody still associates that with them. And with millennials, I think we have a similar problem, and this is not ever going to go away because it's just the way that people associate groups, right? How you get defined is sort of going to remain that way, and like it doesn't necessarily evolve that much within the public perception, even if the reality, as you're saying yourself, like, wow, millennials are having kids. How did this happen? And it's because the answer is like we all grow up, and I don't know if there's a way to redefine that. Like we're stuck with what we got.
I think it'll be interesting to see some trends that may stick. So I think we talked a few weeks ago about the sharing economy and the peer economy, and that's kind of a millennial mindset. And I don't necessarily see that going away as the generation ages, because kind of the core values are the same. So it's less about kind of a time in your life and a behavior, and more about how you think about things. So it'll be interesting to see if that stays put. There was something on the news this morning, which, Joe, you'll like this one. So a play on Airbnb, but it's called AirPNP. And so you're renting out your toilet. And so it's like you're walking around and you don't want to use the public restroom, and you can go to somebody's house. I guess that's not that different from renting out your place for somebody to stay, but that to me seems a little bit too much.
No, listen, I'm going to be on AirPNP. Afterwards, you get some nice sanitizer and fragrances. No, that's brilliant. I'm going to get mints. I'm going to stand there and hopefully I'll get a good tip as well. I love that idea. I mean, I hate that idea. That's scary. No, but actually, going back to AirPNP, imagine how powerful that will be for retailers. So now you have, for example, the Gaps of the world trying to get people to come into their stores, now kind of just saying, hey, we'll give you access to our employee, kind of what used to be the employee toilets. That could become a fantastic drive into stores.
Yeah, I feel like that would probably make the "for customers only" signs pretty obsolete, because if they could make revenue off of it, then it would be a huge opportunity for them.
Yeah.
So does anybody else have any more questions? I'm sorry, Adam, that we got on the topic of PE.
Really, that's as personal as the sharing economy gets, so it's interesting. I wasn't familiar with it.
Oh, I guess you learn something every day.
The sharing economy.
Yeah, we have 1 minute left, so if anybody else has something to add.
Adam, why don't you tell us kind of what's on your roadmap 2015? What should we look out for with Dorm Chat?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of really cool updates right around the corner. We are really ramping up, our presence on campuses. Our growth thus far has been all organic, and now we're going to really start reaching out and being a little bit more proactive. And that combined with the fact that we've really had our team working around the clock for the past couple months to get our product to that next level. I think the combination is going to be a lot of fun for us in 2015.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Adam. And this actually isn't the first time that I've pestered Adam in the last 24 hours. I actually interviewed him for our blog, Madison and Mountain View. So if you want to hear more from Adam, check it out and join us next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam.
Bye, Adam.
Bye. Thanks, Adam.
Take care. Cheers.